What's up, fam? I'm your host, Jack Settleman. Joining me today, as always, my co-host, a longtime best friend, Abe Granoff. Abe, what is on your mind today?
What an absolutely magnificent, beautiful Memorial Day weekend it was, Jack. Did you have a good Memorial Day weekend?
I did. What made yours so pleasant?
I mean, I had multiple hot dogs on multiple days. The Sixers hired Nick Nurse. It's not Doc Rivers. That's a plus. Derek White. The snap. Did this weekend, Jack, did we see our first ever MVP chant for a member of the Snapback fam? Because I think we did.
I feel like Austin Eckler's probably gotten some fantasy MVP chance for sure, but to make a play like that, that was probably a first.
I mean, so you have Derek White doing that and just putting the entire city of Boston on his back. And then how could it go better for me, right? We're going back to Boston, 3-0, history. We're not going to be history. We're going to make history, the Boston Twitter account tweeted. And you know what? We learned something. Derek can't do it by himself. As much as we want him to, he needs help around him. So it was just a beautiful Memorial Day weekend of glizzies, I relaxed on the beach, and then it culminated with those pitiful, delusional, cocky Boston fans late last night just being taken down finally. Screw the Celtics, except Derek White, and happy Memorial Day weekend to everybody.
It's just so funny to listen to you take that approach. Like these pitiful, delusional, cocky, yes, they've won one title since 1992 or whatever it may be. But you talk about the Sixers going to the NBA Finals every year. So it is the most kettle calling the pot black, I think, of all the scenarios, especially because while the Celtics are fighting to go to the NBA Finals, back to the NBA Finals, the Sixers fans are watching an Allen Iverson documentary be previewed on TNT for the 14th variation of it for the only time that they've even gotten there. It's just
not true.
It's a weird energy.
Not the only time we've ever gotten there. Not true. That's fine. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm fully right hand up. I have no room to stand on, but I told you I'm gonna be there, and I'm here. Boston lost. Boston talks all that shit. They are what we thought they were, or they are what Abe thought
talk
they
shit?
were. Their fans did. Oh, don't let us get one. Don't let us get two. Blah 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 blah. Oh, blow me.
I mean, it was kind of true. All right, this is the angle I'm going to take. It'll get an obvious eye roll from you, but the beauty of athletics, the beauty of professional sports, variance. Oh, the variance was so good. Who was the better team in the series? The Boston
Miami.
Celtics. Who was
Wait, whoa. Why were they the better team?
Like they're a more talented team. They're a better skilled team.
On paper.
When it all boiled down to one game, who were 8.5-point favorites at home, and in one game, who had the odds to go and win the game? Of course, the Boston Celtics. They were the better team. They had the better players. But if that old man with the graph, you fuck around and find out, and you leave it all up until one game, which is why winning a Super Bowl is the hardest thing in sports. You leave it to one game, what can happen? Well, the first play of the game, we're apparently going to need a Gabe Vincent rule to go with an Andrew Bogut rule. Jason Tatum turns his ankle. And secondly, what happens? Celtics can't make a shot, and the Miami Heat can. And at that point, virtually no chance for Boston. So variance wins again, and congrats to the Miami Heat on an incredible run. We won't talk finals yet, but they did it.
Yeah, I mean, Missoula came out and essentially was just like, we're going to either shoot a lot of threes and we make them, we're going to the finals, and if we miss them, we're not. And I think the Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Warriors era has kind of brainwashed teams into thinking like that is a successful way to go about things, where nobody's ever Steph Curry and nobody's ever Klay Thompson and nobody's ever the Golden State Warriors. And I think Joe Mazzulla got lost in his ways. But I'm not going to talk a lot about Joe Mazzulla because I'm going to go under the assumption, I could be wrong, right, that Joe Mazzulla is going to get fired after this year. He might not, but he might. And at what point do we start to put some blame on the Boston Celtics players? If Joe Mazzulla is fired this offseason, Jack, 4 head coaches, 4 different years, 1 finals appearance, no championships. At what point do we start pointing the finger? And you know where I'm going to start pointing? Jason Tatum is spectacular. He is a spectacular basketball player. But what I learned this playoffs about him, he thinks he's Kobe Bryant. He thinks he's one of the all-time greats in basketball. He is such... I shouldn't say that word. The guy just cries and cries and cries. It's like the first playoffs where I learned that Luka just bitches at everyone and thinks he's like this golden child. Which, don't get me wrong, Jason Tatum and Luka Doncic both are 2 spectacular young players in the league. But Jason Tatum walks around and holds himself like he should be getting LeBron James calls. Like he should be getting Kobe Bryant treatment. And that's just not the case. The guy's been handed the keys to one of the most successful franchises in NBA history. But he hasn't done anything with those keys. He started the car. He hasn't driven it anywhere. He drove it to the finals and then got stopped in traffic. And that's about it. And then last night he comes up short. And I don't want to hear about the turned ankle. Like, first off, if you want to talk about playoff injuries, I'm the last person you want to come to talk to about that and playing through it. So I do not want to hear about the turned ankle. My point is, if you're out there, you have to be 100% you. Simple as that. There's no excuses. No. If you are at the point and you're Jason Tatum last night and you think I am injured so bad that I am actually hurting my basketball team by being out there, then you have to pull yourself off the floor. It's as simple as that. He was on the floor. He was a nothing on defense. He was on and off on offense, but I don't want to hear the ankle from the Boston fans, because that was the first message I received from a Boston fan last night was that Tatum ankle. What about the fact that you guys just lived and died by the 3 ball, and whether or not Tatum had a busted ankle or not, if you guys missed 43s, you probably were still going to lose the game. Like, the game plan was shoot, and live and die by it. Well, you died, and so did Tatum's ankle.
I don't think it makes it a bad game plan at all. And I think discrediting the fact that completely impacted the game, I agree with you. Yeah, they scored under 90 points. Regardless of Jason Tatum's ankle, probably not going to make an impact on the game. Jason Tatum said no excuses. You know, he was out there, but he wasn't 100%. He was far from it. It was a one-game thing. There wasn't anything for him to do. And to be quite honest, for how deep that team was, how strong that core was, and how they could go 7 deep and feel confident in it, playoff basketball, start to peel the pieces away. Al Horford, not as consistent making his shots. Okay, he's now a negative to the team. Robert Williams,
Rest in
okay,
piss, Al Horford.
He's not as helpful to the team. Malcolm Brogdon, the 6th man of the year, he's unplayable. Grant Williams, he's unplayable in the second half. So, yes, you got to pull yourself off the floor, but Boston had nothing going. And a lot of Tatum's, I think, defensive liabilities came really down the stretch when they started targeting him, when that game was far, like, way over. Boston Celtics, all right, Abe, what should they do? Keep the Jays together, break them up. I am in a pretty strong disagreement against, the media members like yourself, who the second that a team loses, they got to blow it up. They got to blame everyone that all this stuff is going wrong. I asked you this because when they were down 2-0 or 3-0, I said, if they fall short again, what do you do? But then I posed it and framed it like you said, James Harden, Joel Embiid, they should keep that Sixers team together regardless of what would happen. And in Jason Tatum's post-game press conference, he said, you got to sign Jaylen Brown. He's one of the best players in the NBA. Last night, no. He had 8 turnovers, and he was literally throwing up on himself all game long. But he is one of the better players in the NBA, and he's the type of player, the wing, the 3-and-D guard, wing kind of hybrid, that you're dying for, that you're loving, that every team is looking for, especially come playoff time. So I just don't think, yes, they haven't gotten there. yes, the blame falls on them, but this is kind of how it works. Is they're 24 and 26 years old. Jason Tatum's 24 and Jaylen Brown's 26. They're entering their prime. Curry, Jordan, Bron, all of them. They won their first titles at 26, 27, 28. So it would just be hyper reactionary to blow this team up. They were a favorite in Game 7. They would have been favorites in the NBA Finals. They had a coach that not everyone loves, a rookie head coach. And yes, the 4 coaches in 4 years, it's a little bit of a disservice because of how Ime went out. I wouldn't necessarily put that on his coaching ability. So I don't know. Are you breaking him up? And if you are, is that a completely biased breakup? Like,
yes,
you kind of want to see your ex fail?
Yes. I'm breaking them up today, and the reason I'm breaking them up is because I don't want to play them as a duo anymore. Simple as that. But listen, Jaylen Brown is owed 5 years, $300 million or something with the new salary cap, and there's this new luxury tax rule. I haven't looked into it a lot, but I was reading some tweets last night that's like, the way the second apron luxury tax rules are structured makes teams very hesitant to give these guys the max and the super max now, because it squeezes out the amount of veteran minimums they can sign, the amount of mid-level exceptions for like $10 to $15 million they can sign. So it's like you can give these superstars and have a team of 3 superstars all on max contracts, but like you're going to be scraping for change at the bottom of the barrel for the rest of your roster. Can Brown and Tatum get it done together? I mean, probably. It just seems like in these big moments, they don't really know who the momentum is to ride. It just always falls kind of on Tatum, and that kind of causes a little angst within the two. It feels like, not in their own personal relationship, but Jaylen Brown getting frustrated with the Celtics, frustrated with Joe Mazzulla, where he seems like he's the odd man out. And we've seen this before where the guys are going to go and want their own type of squads and be that guy. Now, is that Jaylen Brown in Portland? Is that Jaylen Brown anywhere else on a free agent market? I don't know. But listen, I'm a firm believer that when you have really good basketball players on your team, you should try and keep really good basketball players on your team. And it's as simple as that. And that's a lot of the reason why I'm fine with James and Joel running it back, is because, like, what the fuck else are you going to do, right? It's like, it's really hard to get better. When you're a top 5 team contender or top 7 team contender, whatever you want to call it, it's really hard to get astronomically better going forward in order to win a championship. The way that you win a championship isn't by changing up your entire core and changing up your culture. It's how you win on the margins. It's the $10 million guys that you're signing that maybe should be worth $20 million, or you're going to help get paid in the next offseason. It's the $3 million. It's the young guys on the rookie contracts. So when you're talking about how can the Boston Celtics improve, taking their second best player off the team probably isn't it, because you still have to find $50 million of that to fill somewhere else. It's using your guys and then using them and their abilities to find these other smaller guys around them. So if I am a Boston Celtic fan, I do not want to I do not want to get rid of Jaylen Brown. I don't.
However, the rumor I'm saying is like number 3, Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons. Like, yes, that might be a fair comp package, because then you don't have to pay Jaylen $300 million either. But your team gets worse. There's no doubt that your team gets worse. And if you look around, you know, how many times have the Heat been told, we got to blow it up? We need to get Jimmy out of there before his contract goes bad. We need to get Bam out of there because he sucks, which quite frankly, he is a very confusing player. The Nuggets, you know, Murray's hurt, Porter Jr.'s hurt, Gordon's not playing perfectly, and the Nuggets were told they need to blow it up. Well, now they're heavy favorites to win an NBA championship. So I think you're spot on with your point. It's very tough to get much better over the course of an offseason when you're already at a certain level. I do want to talk about the NBA Finals, the NBA TV Finals, as many people will say. It's on YouTube TV.
Should we do a memorial for the ratings today?
But I want to give credit to the Miami Heat, because holy crap, they were down 3 with 2 minutes to go in the second playing game after losing to the Hawks. They battle back out of there. They beat the Bucks in 5. They beat the Knicks in 6. They blow the 3-0 lead just to come back on the road in Game 7. And I said that the Celtics were not dead. I equally said just because they get back there. I did feel maybe more aligned with Philly fans. Like, once Philly blew Game 6, they were in trouble in Game 7. I did not feel that about Game 7 for Miami. Like, I don't think Miami gave a damn. They did not care where they were playing that game. They thought they were on even pegging. So I want to give major credit to the Heat. And I also want to give I just want to acknowledge something. So this conversation around, the ratings are dead. First of all, Miami's a huge market, so the ratings shouldn't die just because the Miami Heat are out. Now, the storylines, it feels like the media has actually given the Heat the time of day into building up these storylines, which is obviously Spoelstra is the best coach in the league. It's the undrafted guys. It's Jimmy Butler, right? So I would say like those are the 3 main storylines. And then watching last night's game, while Caleb Martin's going off, like there's this Caleb Martin storyline about how he literally got waived by Michael Jordan's Hornets, and now he easily could have won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He had 4 votes. Jimmy had 5 votes. There's no real storylines being built up on the Denver side, and it all goes back to the mainstream media, who, for whatever reason, does not want to put the time and energy into building these great stories. Like, Nikola Jokic was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. He's the best player in the world right now. Like, Jamal Murray coming back off an ACL injury. Michael Porter Jr. coming off a back injury. He was touted as one of the best players in the country. He was the number 1 recruit. Aaron Gordon, Michael Malone, as he's called. Like, for whatever reason, the Denver Nuggets are just getting no love. But the Denver Nuggets are also getting no love because they're drama-free. There is no drama with them. What's the drama?
There's a video of Jamal Murray a few years ago.
That's true. And, hey, maybe that comes out resurfaced again. But
hope so.
I think Denver Nuggets fans, because I was going back and forth with a few of them, they're so upset that they're not getting the love and the limelight. And it's kind of like chicken and the egg. It's like, well, you guys don't have drama. And they're like, yeah, but that doesn't make us boring. And I'm like, no, it does, but it's not a bad thing. And they're so upset. And it's like, what do you want? Do you want to win a championship, or do you want to go down like the Suns, the Nets, the Sixers, the all these drama, Lakers, these drama-filled teams, Clippers, or do you just want to be the best team left standing? So I don't know. As a fan, Abe, like, is there something about not only winning the championship, but there being like this? But you know from your Eagles ship, like, do you need people to care about it for you to care about it?
It's big pick me attitude, and I feel as if I used to think that way when the Sixers first got out of the process years and were like in the playoffs and beat Miami in the first round, but we're playing with house money early, Ben and Joel, and like the Dario Saric days. But listen up here, Nuggets fans. The last thing you want is these motherfuckers talking about you. That is the last thing you want. The last banner you want to hang in Ball Arena or whatever your stadium's called is, we were the first segment on First Take today. Shit always goes wrong. Jack said it perfectly. The Nets, the Sixers, the Lakers, everybody that they always talk about, something goes wrong. Because that's what the media does. The media causes narratives, and whether or not you believe it, narratives creep their way into locker rooms, creep their ways into the doors of organizations. People talk. Everyone has Twitter. Listen, what you want if you're a Nuggets fan is when you win, then you say loudly, why aren't you talking about us? Why aren't you talking about us? Well, because LeBron just posted maybe a suicide watch note on his Instagram story. That's why we're not talking about you. But for now, no. The last thing that you want is to be talked about. I mean, you will be, because I don't think LeBron's going to do anything in the next week and a half to take away from what's going on in these finals. That would be very selfish of him. But if he doesn't, then yeah, they should be the first segment on First Take. But that's the weirdest attitude that I'm seeing from like Nuggets fans and Nuggets Twitter, or just the media in general, is like People are mad that nobody's talking about the Nuggets. Yes, they are. They are talking. They're just saying they won last night. They're really good at basketball. There's not much more else to talk about. Simple as that. It's like we don't need to make these long segments and animated things like Monday Night Football does, where Nikola Jokic is in the shape of a quesarito because that's where he was drafted. And if that's what you want to be talked about, then fine. But like, you're trying to win a championship. So it's be careful what you wish for type stuff.
Before we get our finals preview, which will come out Thursday, what is your opening reaction to the matchup?
The Nuggets are really good.
But that's been the conversation every single round in this playoffs has been, okay, Bucks in 5, maybe not Knicks in 5, Celtics in 5, Nuggets in 5, and Miami can't shoot like this next round. They can't shoot like this next round. They can't play like this next round. They can't do they can't do this next round. They've done it through 3 rounds. I feel like they could do it a 4th time. So my gut is, like the rest of America, that they're going to win the series in 4 or 5 games. And then my brain is screaming at me like, no, let's just accept that they're going to win games because that's what they do. The most interesting thing, and we'll talk about it later, that I'm going to have to conceptualize and really think through is Bam Adebayo. He hates looking at the basket, but he really makes such an impact defensively.
Did you say Bam Adebayo or Ben Adebayo?
Ben Adebayo, Bam Simmons, Scam Adebayo, whatever you want to call him. But on the defensive end, he's irreplaceable. He's a chameleon. He can guard one. He's a true guard 1 through 5. You would think Anthony Davis would have been able to shut Jokic down the most out of everyone left in the playoffs. But maybe Bam's speed and athleticism can match Jokic to the best that we've seen throughout the playoffs. That, you cut the head off the snake, but the zone's not going to work against Denver. They had 13 possessions against them in the regular season against zone. They scored 20 points. So that's not going to work. But Miami, you're talking about Boston's strategy. Miami has the same strategy. Just shoot 43s, hope 20 go in, and they'll have a shot. But Denver is the best offense in basketball, so they might still be able to neutralize that. You guys got a new head coach. So from my understanding, I thought Nick Nurse was a fantastic coach. And then at the end of his tenure, everyone started to shit on Nick Nurse, like Raptors fans specifically. And I was kind of confused because I thought he was credited, obviously Kawhi, and they had a strong team. It was a well-built roster. But I thought Nick Nurse got a lot of credit for coaching them up and winning them a championship. By the end of it all, it sounded like Nick Nurse wasn't a good coach and that he didn't deserve any credit for that title. So that's what I've consumed. And now Nick Nurse is the head coach of the Sixers. Is there actually a reaction here? Do we care? What are our thoughts?
We care because I think Nick Nurse, in my opinion, generally on the timeline, was probably, whether or not you want to put him or Monty Williams, he was the best coach available. And the fact that he pulled himself from the Milwaukee job and then chose Philly over Phoenix is something that's interesting to you, that he wants to coach this absolute dumpster fire of a joke of an organization franchise. He's not Doc Rivers. He's actually a lot different than Doc Rivers, and he isn't just going to stick in his ways and play the guys that he thinks he can play. He's going to have a quick trigger with guys. He's a psycho when it comes to schematics and X's and O's, where Nick Nurse is an X's and O's freak. Doc Rivers doesn't even know the alphabet, has never seen the letters X and O in his entire life. It's a coach, right? You can get excited about a coach all you want. At the end of the day, it's all on the players, and that's what we found out. What I am most interested to see is apparently Nick Nurse doesn't take no shit. He's not afraid of his superstars, all this stuff. He plays his superstars a shit ton of minutes. Apparently he's Tibbs with a ring and bad vision. But now it's time to find out if it's actually this fat fuck Joel's fault or not.
Oh my God. Now it's time? You just gave him another lifeline? He's a cat. He's got 9 lives. Now it's time.
I'm excited.
Year is Joel Embiid entering? Is this his 8th year?
8th or 9th, I want to say.
Now it's time.
I'm excited.
Lovely.
I'm excited
But
about Nick
Nurse.
Nurse.
I heard they met and they have no beef.
Yeah, well, now you got the one guy who was a psycho when it came to defending Joel Embiid, and having him on your side now isn't the worst thing.
I'm excited for you guys. New beginnings.
It's a coach. It's like, how excited can you get about a coach? You know, you can get more excited about an NFL coach because, like, he throws his head into his players' helmets, and you're like, that guy's a coach you want on your team. But it's like, it's the NBA. Just put on a freaking golf shirt and don't fuck things up too much.
Yeah, unless it's Spoelstra. Give love to Spoelstra. All right, It is time for our cap of the week. My cap of the week belongs to Aaron Rodgers. Shout out Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is doing an incredible PR tour around New York. He hasn't even played a down for the Jets, and he might be Jets fans' favorite player ever. Let's look back at his history. He signs with the New York Jets after announcing on Pat McAfee's show, which was awesome for Jets fans because in the biggest media market in the world, their quarterback declared where he wanted to go. He controlled the narrative. Then, the impending weeks after, he goes to a Rangers game. He goes to Knicks games with Sauce Gardner. Then, recently, he's at a Taylor Swift concert. He's a Swiftie at MetLife, having the time of his life. He films a video with confetti falling on him saying, the New York Jets have won the Super Bowl. And the Jets fans are, I mean, if you're a fan, what's better than your quarterback controlling the narrative in the biggest media market, embracing the city and their sports teams, embracing your teammates, and then showing off the side of you that's like, I'm a Taylor Swift fan and I'm lighthearted and love the New York Jets and we're going to win a Super Bowl. What's better? It's Cap, though. What the hell happened to Aaron Rodgers? Either he spent a few days in darkness and completely changed as a person, or he's putting on the greatest run of PR of all time, and I'm calling Cap on him. Why is that? Because if you actually look at the one time he's been on a football field, he's already sitting out with an injury, and he's already gone down with a something. So I don't believe that this is Aaron Rodgers. I think that he's playing up the Jets fans. He's getting them all excited, and he's capping. This is not Aaron Rodgers unless he had a midlife crisis and completely changed who he is. But I don't think that's true, so I'm calling Cap on him.
Did you just say essentially you don't think the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl? I'm just saying, are we?
No,
are you burying the Jets? Are you burying the Jets on Tuesday, May 30th, 2023?
No, I'm not even talking about.
Damn, I was hoping you would bury them.
I'm saying when they are 6-4 this season, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be talking Taylor Swift. He's not going to be talking confetti. He's going to be giving sass and attitude to the guys, and he's going to be, rumors will start to swirl, and Thanksgiving's coming up, so he's a little anxious because, his brother might text him. So I just don't think this is Aaron Rodgers.
I think what we're seeing out of Aaron Rodgers is classic, Jack. He's like a kid that's going to Disney World for the first time. He lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin for 15 years, and now he's in the Mecca, New York City, the biggest and best city in the world. Obviously, he's going to have a little fun. That's what it is. He's on his little honeymoon with New York, but then when it's time to work, the calf starts hurting. So I don't think this isn't Aaron Rodgers. I just think this is a side of Aaron Rodgers that we haven't seen because when you're in Green Bay, Wisconsin for 15 years, you're kind of out of the public eye for a little while, especially when you're
I had a fantastic time in Green Bay, Wisconsin, for the record. And I smiled plenty.
Would you have a fantastic time for 15 years?
They got good cheese curds, man. Good cheese curds.
Not that good. My cap of the week goes out to a guy who made a special story in these last few weeks, and that's Michael Block, a club pro on the PGA Tour, who, if you saw the story, he placed 15th in the PGA Tour. The way he did that was by dunking a hole-in-one on, I think, 17 or something, and then a sick up and down that qualified him for 15th place, and therefore an automatic bid in the next PGA Championship. He gets on the podium after. He's crying how much it means to him. They talk about his kid, everything. This guy cried for like a week straight. He gets invited to the Charles Schwab Invitational the following week. And he sits down in an interview. and he plays the last grouping on Sunday at the PGA Tour Championship. He was paired with Rory, so he's asked about what it was like to pair with Rory and the difference between these types of guys. Like, Michael Block is a PGA Club pro, which means he washes the shoes of everybody on the tour pretty much. And he's playing with Rory McIlroy, one of the greatest of all time, one of the best in the world. And he says, and I quote, I'm not going to do a direct quote, but he said, the only difference between Rory and I is our length. Pause. He should have said distance. He said he has world-class chipping, world-class around the greens, world-class irons. The only difference between him and Rory McIlroy is their ability to drive it 300, 350 yards and set them up for a second shot. Michael Block, my guy. The only difference? That's like telling me the only difference between me and Jimmy Butler is the fact that he has his own coffee company and I don't. And that's the only reason that he's successful in the NBA and in the NBA Finals. Well, Michael Block, you had the opportunity to follow that up this weekend. That comment, the difference between you and Rory is just how far you can drive it. How did he follow up his spectacular performance at the PGA Championship, Jack? There were 120 people in the field at the Charles Schwab Invitational. Michael Block finished in 120th place. Dead last, served a slice of humble pie. You know what, Michael? It was a great story. We're excited to see you miss the cut at the PGA Championship next year. Maybe when you have the peak of your life, you don't just start... You know what? It's actually pretty relatable now that I think about it. Like, think about when you go golfing, Jack, or when you're playing MLB The Show, a game or a sport that you know that you suck at, but there's that one chip from 100 out that sticks at the center of the green, or there's that one perfect swing on a breaking ball that you get into the show. You're like, I'm fucking back. I can do this. I'm the GOAT. So it's relatable in that sense, but the fact that Michael Block said that the only difference between him and Rory is their ability to drive the ball, and then he came out in the Charles Schwab Invitational and placed dead last was just mwah. And you know what, Michael? I hate to be that hater. I'm rooting for you, but unfortunately, I am going to be fading you in every tournament possible from here on out that you play in. Cap of the week, Michael Block.
Cap of the week, indeed. All right, our internet graphic of the week is this one with the quad box of Jeremy Lin. And the question is, who is a role player that could be a star if they got more minutes? My immediate response and my only thought on this, because I am actually a pretty big believer that minutes breed just production. That's been seen before. The more minutes you play, the more production you're going to have, at least for the most part. Now, the question would be, who's a role player that if they got more minutes in the playoffs? Now, that's a whole different can of worms. But the answer is apparently anyone in the NBA who plays for the Miami Heat, because Caleb Martin literally could have won the most valuable player in the conference finals. They've got 4 undrafted guys on the team who were not drafted and now are playing not only minutes, but pivotal minutes. And the reason why I specify the Miami Heat is because Duncan Robinson specifically, he was knocked out of the rotation, which means there was a thought that he was a negative to the team. But then Spoelstra recognized, all right, we can play this guy 30 minutes. He's a plus to the team. We just got to hide him on defense. And I think other teams outside of the Miami Heat aren't likely to create schemes to let their players who have flaws and weaknesses, which makes them role players, because they're not the best player. You build around the best player, right? You structure a lot of things around only your top guy. So while the Knicks are focused on hiding Jalen Brunson on defense, they're much less focused on hiding RJ Barrett on defense or Josh Hart shooting, and so it leaves them in these spots where they can almost get played off the floor. The Miami Heat do the complete opposite of that. Max Strus is playable because of the way the Heat play the game. Duncan Robinson can get 30 minutes and 12 shots up because of the way they successfully hide him on defense. So it looks like anyone who plays for the Heat could be a good player in the NBA.
Yeah, I'm going to just not answer Eagleton's question because it's too hard to pick just one player. But I am a firm believer in that being a role player and like wanting more minutes and having that potential, like you saw with rarely do we see the instances with Mikal Bridges and what happened to him, where he was just in that situation, buried, came out, and we saw what he could be.
Yeah.
I would actually say that in most cases, in that type of situation that Mikal Bridges went through, that is a detriment to the future of their career. And the person that sticks out in my head is Jordan Poole, who overperformed, came onto the scene, was the third Splash Brother apparently, and like realistically he was probably a very solid role player, but he had this influx of production and hype around him to the point where there were heightened expectations. There was 4 years for $120 million. Duncan Robinson, he had the 5 years for $90 million. Tyler Hero, it's those types of contracts in the middling ground where it's like we know they're not max players, but we know they're not scrubs. So let us pay them adequately in hopes that they are a max player. And I think that heightens expectations and inevitably ruins a lot of guys' careers. And Jordan Poole, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero are three to come to mind in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best example to answer Eagleston's question would be Cam Thomas. Like, Thomas,
that was the one on my head.
Like, he literally goes from he does not play. They refuse to play him. And then if a couple of the guys are out and he's the feature piece, like, he scores 45 points in a game. And then he's back to the bench and he is scoring 0 points per game. So it seems like it's really more so an opportunity thing. It makes you think, it makes you wonder, like, should teams be thinking more about just trying different players? But then you've got like the Paul Georges and LeBron James of the world who are claiming that there's a bunch of bums in the NBA. Who's good then? I don't know. Who's a bum in the NBA that sucks, but also I feel like the Houston Rockets players probably. Like those end of the bench guys.
That suck, and then what?
I don't know, but they're still in the NBA. Like the Heat players, are they bums?
Ben Simmons is a bum.
Yeah, he probably is a bum. I wonder if that's who they were talking about. Who do you think they would be talking about? Like, pick a player that isn't like the worst player on a bench that you think they're like, yeah, that guy's a bum.
Like, does Evan Fournier count?
I mean,
I think that's a good type of player.
Grant Williams,
the guys that think they're a lot better than they are, but like they're not bums. Like they have like there's guys that they're talking about that's like Bronny would wipe.
But that's the thing. I don't know if Grant Williams has the talent. Like, he's an undersized guy. He's more of a hustle guy. He can hit a three every once in a while. He's probably more of a bum than like the talented guys who's talented in the league that maybe doesn't get the minutes. I don't know. Like Montrezl Harrell, is he a bum?
Yeah.
But like he dominated. Like he was sixth man of the year level.
Yeah, 10 years ago. He's a fucking bum.
But was he a bum?
No, not way back when, but he is now. Don't talk about Montrezl Harrell right now, dude. It's 8:50 on a Tuesday after a holiday weekend.
All right, let's get Eagleson in here. We actually, I mean, it's miraculous what South Florida is up to right now with the Panthers being in the Stanley Cup Finals and the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals as 8 seeds. And if you do go to the funeral that is Boston, they lost Game 7s at home to 8 seeds in both hockey and in the basketball. So Eagleson, what's going on?
I mean, yeah, like obviously that just seems to bode well for the Dolphins. McDaniel's been at all the games. The vibes are just super high there. You roll your eyes all you want. I don't even want to talk about this really. I want to talk about something else. About probably a week ago now, a couple episodes ago, I believe you guys were answering a mailbag question where you were asked which team would be in the worst spot over the next 3 years. Abe, I think you said the Saints. Jack, you said the Steelers. That ended up getting clipped and put out on the pod account. Oh my God, were Steelers fans mad in the comments. I have never seen a comment section so pissed off with you, Jack. Some people were mad at you too, Abe, but the Steelers fans were out there in full effect and they were very, very upset. So I don't know if you want to like explore that even further, Jack, give them even more of an explanation as to why they're in such a bad spot, because they, let's say, very much disagreed.
Oh, was it? It was on the gram.
Yeah,
right?
on the podcast Instagram.
I think when.
Oh, Mission
Okay.
accomplished.
What? Clickbait?
No,
I
Jack
mean, not
getting what he
really.
wanted. No, pissing off Steelers
Yeah,
fans.
they
I'm not
were
saying you
mad.
didn't mean it.
Very mad.
Let's see. All right, let's see. What was the post? Oh, who's in the worst
Yeah.
spot? Okay. All right, let's read some. Well, first, your boy Kevin Walsh was pretty upset with you, Abe. He's the biggest. He's got to be the biggest Derek Carr fan in the world.
Yeah, I
Just
think
has
it's
to
like
be.
he is to Derek Carr as I am to Tobias Harris for whatever reason.
Yeah, something like that. Is my screen being shared for you guys or no?
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to.
Yeah, it's
You
booting
can see
up
it?
right now. Good podcasting
Yeah.
we're doing right here.
Watch the YouTube.
No, because it should be
Yeah,
up.
it's there.
Oh, there. Oh,
and-
you
yeah.
left.
Yeah. All right, let's try this again. Come on.
Watch the YouTube, everyone.
All right, here we
Big
go.
tech guys. Okay.
All right, so terrible Tal 96. The Steelers are not the worst team in their division and never will be.
Oh, Reed Nevling had
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yes, he
Reed
did. He
Nevling
said
had
this is probably the
time.
worst take by both presenters.
Oh, thank
Shout
you.
out us for being presenters. Steelers finished 7-2 down the stretch and have 2 healthy Defensive Player of the Year contenders. And Kenny Pickett got better each game down the stretch with 2 game-winning drives. The Saints have arguably a top 10 defensive unit, no great quarterback options, but a well-run org like New Orleans rarely finishes with a losing record. Even the standout. This is exactly what we're talking about, though. We're talking about the fact that they're stuck. Why does everyone show the Steelers and the season starts and we go off and everyone rides our dicks? Did either of you guys ride Pittsburgh's dick this year? These guys don't know football. New Orleans with their new guy. Were we supposed to go with the guy who will throw more interceptions than touchdowns? This guy, Derek Carr, isn't that old, at least not by today's standards. If you look at the rest of the division, you'd see the Saints are one of the better teams. Yes, shouting out how bad the NFC South is. I think the Saints are fine. They have a lot of picks.
Here's the thing. They're just saying exactly what we said. And like they didn't
Yeah.
listen to exactly what we said. Where we said the reason that they're in a shit position to blow it up is because they refuse to believe that they're anything other than these historic franchises that can compete year in and year out, that they're banking on their brand. Excuse me. And the Saints don't even have that. The Steelers do, the steel curtain and all that. But what we're saying is that you guys have convinced yourself that you guys can do something that your roster isn't constructed to do. Your future salary cap projections aren't constructed to do. Your future draft picks aren't constructed to do. At some point, you have to cut it off and just start over. There's nothing wrong with that. It's liberating for the fans. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of them just proved our point in those comments. So more credit to us.
And the last comment was second guy doesn't know football. Who was first guy and who was second?
Abe was first.
Eagleson.
You were second.
Bang.
Wait,
Yeah.
what? Why was I
Sorry,
second?
brother.
I feel like I start the. Don't I start?
Abe gives
Let me
Saints
see
first,
this.
and then you
Let me
finish
see
with
this.
Steelers.
What? No,
Jack.
not in the. Oh,
Jack, just
And then
it's okay.
there's another
Lost
one
this
here that wasn't on there. If you're gonna talk about football, at least understand it. The man who said Saints is 100% correct, but bro, just admit you don't watch football.
Okay, I'm down. If I'm correct, if I'm 100% correct, I'll admit what you want, brother.
Wait, so Abe luckboxed into a correct take in this guy's
I guess
mind.
so.
I respect that. I respect
The
that.
game be the game. Hey, you got to win by it's the playoffs, baby. It doesn't matter how you win, just
By
win.
any means necessary. Holy shit, you are so poverty, Eagles.
Why?
Well, first off, shout out the Leafs because I did see. I think did you guys come back from 3-0 in 1942?
Yeah, we did in the Stanley Cup final.
I saw.
Actually,
Yeah, and they
I
didn't.
saw.
you don't remember?
And they didn't put
Yeah.
the Flyers on there when we did it against Boston a few years ago, or 10
Yeah.
years ago.
So shout out you for that. But you to come on this pod and say that the Panthers and the Heat going to the finals bodes well.
Does it not?
For the Dolphins? How would it bode? I don't even know what bode technically means, but how would it bode? How would that bode in anything for the Dolphins?
Other than vibes, I mean, shit, not much.
I feel that. I feel that.
Like other than the vibes, obviously there's not much there. It's
What are the vibes though? I feel like the
2
vibes
8
are
seeds
like
going to the finals. What's not fucking awesome about that? That never happens.
You mean
it's
two?
awesome, but
The vibes in Miami are 2 8 pieces of fried chicken for Tua, and that's about
Come
it.
on. No one's going to be able to tackle him. He's never going to hit his head on the ground, and he's going to play the entire year. You guys don't understand what this means. We're going to... Oh, my God. We're going to be so fucking good.
It's almost wager time.
Let's go. I'll make one right now. I'm so ready.
You just paid out your most recent wager. I think Eagleston's chasing. Eagleston's chasing
He's
bad
chasing L's.
podcast.
Look.
Speaking of which, we might be due for a little fan pod soon.
I was going to say, this is actually the 3-year anniversary of my original fan pod where I came on here.
Today?
Yeah.
What
It was
sure we do
yesterday.
them in, like,
No, it was May
August.
29th. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
COVID had us.
Might have been
down
COVID,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was. COVID pod.
And
There wasn't
I
much
think
to
game
talk
1 of the within the next week, I think we're pushing 4 years on
Damn.
this pod.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's crazy.
Eagleson, what was the question you asked 3 years ago?
I asked you guys, so I went and listened to it. I asked you guys if the Dolphins were going to have a good season, and then I just gave some random fucking stats like Ryan Fitzpatrick is our oldest player. We have such a young team besides that. And then I asked you about the Jakeem Grant contract. Do you guys remember him?
I shit
yeah,
on
you
that.
did.
I
You
shit
guys
on that
hated on it.
contract.
Definitely pretty hard. And
Don't pay
Yeah.
a returner $10
and
million
guess what,
a
Jack?
year.
You were
It's not-
100% right.
Don't know ball, but
But hey,
once
you're
again,
100%
we were
right about
correct.
Jakeem
If
Grant.
there's a brand that I would love to just encompass for the rest of my life, it is 100% correct, but don't know ball. I'm cool with that.
Is it don't know or don't watch?
I think you got both.
Whatever he
I think
wants.
you got both.
As
in
long
there.
as I'm
Because I actually believe Abe doesn't watch ball of many ball sports.
See that.
watch ball.
He's a consumer of the timeline. I feel like.
No, I watch a lot of ball.
On Twitter.
I watch ball, most of my ball
On Twitter.
after the fact. Like, I watch a lot of highlights, a lot of
Yeah.
YouTube highlights, full game highlights, that type of shit. But, like, who has the time to sit there and watch 40 fucking NBA games a night? Nobody.
Wob.
You don't watch ball.
Worldwide Wob.
Yeah, I don't have 10 TVs in my room.
You know who doesn't watch ball? And we can finish with this. Is the fucking NBA stats aficionado. I mean, how hard is it to count? I got screwed. And there was no sympathy for me, which I guess that's, once you climb the mountaintop of a couple big hits, and people turn
What was
on
it?
you.
What,
You're not a man of the
What did you
people.
miss out on?
I should have won 5 Gs last night, and first of all, they're handing out Jimmy Butler assists like they're candy, and even one of the assists, Jimmy Butler's foot's on the line, and he should have finished with 5, and I would have won the whole thing. By the way, I didn't actually post about this, but I took an undersman FanDuel last night, 100 to win 22 grand. I went 8 for 10. I had Duncan Robinson under 8.5 points. He had 10. And Jimmy Butler under 5.5 assists. He had 6. The other 8 hit. So
Tough.
these margins, man. It's a game of inches. It's a game of inches.
It's okay. I had to sweat out my Michael Block to miss the cut, Heat to win the series parlay when they were up 3-0 for a little longer than I would have liked, but cash that.
Oh, cash the Heat. All right. Very nice.
Cash
yeah.
it.
Oh, and last thing, shout out my boy C-Blaz. I don't know if you guys saw, but BR Betting and a bunch of the accounts picked up on Chad Blesnick, who's this big sports car guy who also does sports betting content. And when the Heat went up 3-0 in the series, he posted like, this bet has never lost, ever. And so he put $5,000 down to win like $400 on the Heat. And then they lost game 4. He bet him again. He bet him again. Game 6, obviously he was in Miami. Reaction to the D White shot. And then he quadded down with
He did
another
again?
5 Gs on the money line in game 7. Never a doubt. Bet has never lost. You go up 3-0, guaranteed.
I saw another podcast. I'm not going to shout him out because I don't want to plug it, where one of the hosts, when the Heat and Panthers were up 3-0,
Don't want to shout
10
them out.
Gs to win a G. He threw 10 Gs to win a G on on them to finish out the series, and his rationale was like the dumbest but made the most sense in my head to me of all time, where he looks the guy in the eyes, he goes, "What? It's 11% return on investment in a week. You can't get that at any bank in the world." It's like it's never. It was such a perfect rationale, and then it ended up going to 7, but it's not a bad bet.
Yeah,
it's not a bad bet.
It just took a little longer to get the funds wired over.
Yeah, it's a week, 11% ROI.
Never a doubt. I do wonder if, like, the fact that they had to claw back from 3 games down is
it's going to affect them next series.
Yeah, next
for sure. Rest versus Russ. I can't wait to talk about it, baby.
Can't wait. All right, fam. We'll see you guys on Thursday. Me and the intern may be in Denver for Game 1. I have never been to. Is it called Ball Arena, Abe?
Mm-hmm.
I've never been over there, but I would love to see Tubby Jokic, get going against the Heat.
That's my city.
We'll preview the whole thing on Thursday, but let's get some initial predictees. Eagleson, NBA Final.
I was going to say,
finals.
I'll just talk NHL Finals for me. Panthers in 5.
Okay. Abe, pick your sport.
I've got South Florida doing the Philly special and going over 2 in these championships.
I'm in complete agreement with that. I'm going to go Nuggets in 6 games and Knights in a 5. All right, fam. Have a great week. Much love. Peace.